Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. God, we're going to have fun tonight. First hour, we're going to be speaking with Brad Steiger about his new book, Four-Legged Miracles. And in the second hour, we have another good friend on the show, Rabbi Wayne Dossick, and we're going to be talking about indigo children. So it's going to be a fun and informative night because the guests tonight, they're just great. They have great senses of humor. And I think you all know how I enjoy having fun on this show. Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com. Are you feeling stuck or dissatisfied with the direction your life is taking? Well, stop by soulhealer.com and discover all of the products and services I offer that can help you experience health, healing, and wholeness in your life. Now, if you're a regular listener to Just Energy Radio, there are a number of ways that you can be kept informed of who's coming on to the show. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter at justenergyradio.com. That's www.justenergyradio.com. Or you can like Just Energy Radio on Facebook because you would get information either in your email box or online as to the upcoming guests. And if you've missed an episode of the show, please check out our archives. They can be accessed in a bunch of different ways, but here's the list. You can go to the Just Energy Radio webpage where we have over 6 years of show archives that you can listen to. You can listen to them right here on Inception Radio Network. So that's www.inceptionradionetwork.com, or you can download their smartphone app like an iPhone or Android phone, and you can listen to it in your car. You can listen to me while you're driving down the freeway. How cool is that? Or you can check out the Just Energy Radio YouTube channel where we are now posting all of the shows, and we have almost 2 years worth of archives out there, which I was a little surprised. I'm going, about 6 months. It's almost 2 years. Anyway, one last announcement. In June of this year, myself and Brian Forster, who, if you've seen the show Ancient Aliens, has been on a number of times talking about Peru. Well, he and I are teaming up together and putting together a tour to go down to Peru to check out some of those cool sites like Sacsayhuaman, where they have those giant rocks that, one, you can't figure out how they moved them, and two, you can't figure out how they put this puzzle together with these stones. We're going to Machu Picchu. We're going to a bunch of different places. And one of the things that we're doing, in addition to like checking out the archaeological ruins and measuring and touching, I'm going to be working with people to teach them how to tap into the energy of these different locations. We're going to do some remote viewing. We're going to be like checking for vortexes and looking for ancestral spirits that might be still walking the properties. One of the things we're going to be doing is checking out those elongated heads in Paracas. And I heard we might even get to touch some of them. How cool is that? Anyway, that's scheduled for June of this year. If you want more information, go to soulhealer.com. I put a big banner up at the top of the page. Click on the banner, and it will get you all the information about the tour pricing, all of that good stuff. So that's at soulhealer.com. See, now I probably have Brad's ears all going because I'm talking about like ghosts and touching heads and all kinds of stuff. But let me tell you a little bit about Brad Steiger. We will get him on the air. Ghostly phenomena were a common occurrence in Brad Steiger's childhood home. Because these experiences were accepted by a mystically inclined mother and challenged by a skeptically inclined father, Steiger believes that he achieved a balanced attitude toward ghosts and hauntings that has served him well during his nearly 50 years as a psychical researcher. Steiger has authored or co-authored 150 books on the mysterious and unknown. And his newest book is Four-Legged Miracles. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Brad Steiger. Hi, Brad. How are you today?
Hi, Dr. Rita. Just fine. And you're going to love Peru. It is fabulous. Yeah, but watch. You said you're going to channel on those ancient spirits. I know you're very adept, but I'll just give you a caution. Some of them are very, very powerful.
Well, see, I don't channel. I'm a touchy-feely kind of gal, so I'm just going to, this is going to sound bad. I'm just going to feel them up, okay? We're going to teach
you might have a touchy-feely experience before you go home. I mean, it's...
Well, it'll be something to write about.
Oh, yeah. We were given... Well, I think we were given permission, but anyway, we went into Machu Picchu after dark when there weren't any turistas around at all. There was just our little group, and we found one of the remains of a home, went into it. We were having, I think Sherry was just asking the eagle of the north and the condor of that area, and we had candles. All of a sudden, a wind came up out of nowhere, blew out all the people's candles, and that's when we had a Los Angeles cop with us on the tour, and he was reaching automatically for his .38 service because all around us, it was just remarkable. These giant figures appeared, and then my totem has always been the wolf. And out of nowhere, in Machu Picchu, came a group of dogs and drove off the, whatever you want to call them, and followed us all the way back as we beat a hasty retreat. And then Sherry, of course, was praying at the same time, giving the entities peace, giving them peace and giving them good thoughts and so forth. So you don't want to, well, I know you will be prepared, Dr. Rita, but it's fabulous.
We're going in with total respect. It's not to go in and to exploit. It's to commune. I mean, that's really what we're looking to do is commune.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you'll find that all the local teenager boys call Sashe Human, they pronounce it Sexe Woman. So you'll hear that, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, somebody had put that on Facebook, the Roy Orbison song, but he was sexy woman walking down the street.
So it's spread then. It's not just the teenage boys in Peru.
But see, one of the cool things that we're going to be doing is that we're going to be, if you do the extension piece, we're going down to Paracas, and we're going to have the opportunity to go into one of the Paracas cemeteries where they found a bunch of the elongated heads. And I was told, although we're not guaranteed this, that we will be allowed to stay after dark, and we might try to, do a little meditating and communing at that point too. So
that's a good spot. Yeah, Sherry got a lot of the pictures of the elongated heads. It was just in a private museum at that time. They hadn't really made them open. There hadn't been the publicity at that time, and they're astonishing to see.
Was that?
I know that they found many more now. There are just a few in a private museum that we were privileged to see.
Was that in Paracas? Do you remember?
No, that was in. I think that was in Cusco.
I mean, because I know that there is a museum in Paracas, and Brian used to be the curator of that museum. So that gives us like
Okay.
really cool access.
Right. Yeah, well,
I'm just
I'm
like,
sure they've gained much more now since we were there. I'm certain.
oh, definitely.
Hmm.
Well, cool. Thanks for the endorsement on the.
Anytime.
Okay. But Brad, I have to tell you, you never cease to amaze me. On the one hand, you write books about sky people and serpent races and ghosts and all of this kind of crazy ancient mystery ghosty stuff. And then you turn around and write this beautiful book about our baby puppies. How
Well,
can you do that?
you have to be well rounded. And the older I get, the rounder I get. So. No,
Okay, you're just going to make me laugh, and then I'm just not even going to be able to talk because I'm going to laugh at that part.
No, truly, I think I've always tried to demonstrate, with the range of subjects, and fortunately, I have a wife and partner who has the same wide-ranging interests, and it's just very natural. And we've always loved dogs. I've had a thing about dogs ever since I grew up on the farm, and you have to have a dog on the farm. I mean, you just have to. And I recall the time when a disease was striking, and our faithful old Bill the Lassie collie passed away, and we just couldn't keep a dog. And then we found a trapper told us that in the woods where he had a number of traps, there was a wild dog and her pup that had been living there, and were living there. So we set out, father, mother, my little sister, and myself, and we ran that little pup down through the woods, chasing through the woods, and she was fierce. She was absolutely fierce. But once she found out that we were her friends, she became, just an astonishing dog. And I saw then, the way my father interacted. My dad was a big, husky guy, and just the way he became a child and began to communicate with that dog, and he would, of all things, he would sing to it, like a Native American would interact with its animal. And eventually, that wild for the first 3 months, it did nothing but snap at us, and then finally it accepted, but it never became, "I'm going to be your pet dog." It could see the attitude, "I'm going to be here, I'm going to work with you, I'm going to take care of you, but on my terms." And that's interesting to grow up then with a respect for the intelligence and the unique personality of that dog. That became just an exceptional kind of dog. I mean, we had all packs of dogs, and like I say, she was a wild dog, but they would roam. And I remember one night my mother was caught out by the barn with a group of dogs, and Queen, as we called her, Queenie, she fought them all off, protecting my mother. And she was that kind of dog. She was one of the family in all terms. She was not our little doggy, our pet. And I think if you develop that attitude of respect for the intelligence and the uniqueness of that entity that is coexisting with you, you're not lording it over, you're not its superior, you're not its master, you are privileged to be its friend.
That's a wonderful point. Yeah, and but it sounds like the relationship you had with that dog, it wasn't your baby either. All right, like my dogs, they're my babies. I carry them around. Baby.
Nothing wrong with that. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But you see, to call it your baby, you have to have a co-equal form of love. If you're saying my baby, not the baby or it, it's my baby, and that's really projecting your maternal instinct toward it. Our present dog, little Hans, we remark so often the way, and I know we're getting older, so people, the cliche, older couple with a little dog, the kids are grown up. Well, we've got 10 grandchildren, so we don't need to have a surrogate grandchild in this dog, but we recognize, and this is unique too, because this dog is with us 24/7. In the other situations where we went off to work or went to an office and so forth, the dog was at home and you reunited. But this dog is with us 24/7. And it does seem, we were just commenting on this the other night, how it's almost a parental attitude in that sense. In other words, it's our baby, but yet, we have, and I know you do too, you have a respect and a caring and a recognition that this is an intelligence that has its own views of reality. Mm-hmm. So again, baby, but again, that's as long as you don't, as some mamas do, smother the baby so it can't develop on its own. But I'm sure your dog is unique and you recognize its own personality.
My dog's a superstar, Brad. She even has a web page. She does. Poodleinatinfoilhat.com for everyone listening. Poodleinatinfoilhat.com.
In a tinfoil hat, huh? Well, yeah. I can see why that may be true, because just before we went on air,
I was saving her brainwaves.
Yeah, well, I say just before we went on air, I heard you and your producer speaking in your native alien tongue. So.
That's right. Actually, I think it's really interesting that people, I don't even know who these people are, but they say, well, animals aren't smart and animals don't have a conscience, and, you can't compare them to people. And sometimes I think my dog is smarter than me. I mean, I don't know about you, or if you found stories like this, but I think, other than that, we communicate, she and I communicate, and her predecessor, she and I were psychic with each other. But it's like, my dog knows what time it is. My dog knows all kinds of things. If you say, hey, where are the shoes? She'll look at you weird and go, yeah, well, you go get them and I'll... She's a little lazy. All right, she's not lazy. She likes to sleep a lot.
Well, dogs do. It's extraordinary how many hours of sleep that they, I don't know if they're acquired or not. Maybe, maybe we would benefit if we took a little nap every now and then. But they're champions of napping, that's for certain. But you mentioned animal intelligence. It's incredible, the research that's being done. We subscribe to New Scientist, and the Brits and others are just doing extraordinary kinds of experiments and recognizing, that there is a big article on bees, honeybees, and recognizing that they've delineated that they sing certain songs during the day. They have a work song, they have a relaxing song, they have a communication song, and they communicate with one another. They're not just buzzing as they're building those honey hives. So if we're talking about insects and then moving up the ladder, but dogs have that unique relationship with us. They truly are, and you've heard this before, our best friend. I mean, we've been interacting as a unit for, and we say 140,000 years. More conservative scientists, I suppose, put it down to, 50, or some even say 10. But if you look at the research, and as you know, Antiquity, Worlds Before Our Own, one of my first best-selling books, and Mysteries of Time and Space, which probably is one of my largest selling books, where I deal with the incredible fossils and finds and so forth, way back in the early 70s and 60s, I was writing books about what we call ancient astronauts now. I mean, I was writing it back in the 60s. So this type of exploration, if we see how, whether it was not Neanderthal, but emerging Homo sapiens and the various hominids, those that combined with the wolf and linked up to go hunting and so forth, we survived and the Neanderthal didn't. And one of the reasons is Neanderthal didn't unite with the dog. So we see that, as the Native Americans say, wolf is the great teacher. And truly we can learn from our dogs today, the descendants of wolves, and we have that kind of interaction that no other species does. Now, for example, very simply, when I point, and you too, I'm sure you've seen it, if you point at something, your dog looks where you're pointing. Chimpanzees haven't mastered that. Point at a chimpanzee, it says interesting finger. But you point with a dog and the dog says, oh, what's over there? So they watch it so closely for every nuance in our expressions. That's why people say, and of course I believe they do, and so does Sherry, that dogs do have a telepathic link with us, but why even people who don't accept psi phenomena feel their dog can read their mind, because the dog is such a master of reading our faces, reading our body language.
Exactly. I mean, I had another dog, Kiko, and she was an older dog. She was a special needs dog, and she would usually have to go outside in the middle of the night. And I am a very, very, very sound sleeper. I mean, you have to have a bomb go off to wake me up in the middle of the night. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, and then about 5 minutes later, I would hear her stirring, because we had to start kenneling her, because we just had to. And she would start stirring, and it was time to get up and take her outside and put her back to bed every night. You know, and I know that it's because we had this very strong connection, that it was so strong she would get me up without whimpering, without anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hans, our dog, and I think it's because we're with him 24/7, he's become much more vocal than I think other dogs. In television, you know, the dog in a sitcom or whatever, they always whine, and you know, Lassie was always whining on the TV series, but really hadn't had that experience too much. Our black lab would make some noises when he wanted to go outside and come walking with his leash in his mouth. But Hans seems to be more expressive. He's kind of talking, a little whimper, a little whine, a little howl. And I mean, it's interesting because he is mimicking our speech. And he even has some words down now. For example, when he wants to go out, he will say out when it's time to do his duty, do his business outside.
Mine sneezes.
Whatever works. Whatever works.
Well, you know, it kind of sounds like shoo. It's like, oh, I guess she needs to go out. But, you know, I think anybody that has dogs, you know, or even cats that have a strong relationship, you know, you start talking about your babies, and it's just like, you could talk about them forever. Because you always have like a million stories, almost more than your kids. And they're not necessarily bad.
As I warn people, never have more than one couple who own dogs invited to a dinner party. If there's more than one couple, they'll start exchanging dog stories and bore everyone else out of their skulls. I mean, it's just natural. You're excited to share this information because it's your kind of discovery. It's your awesome discovery that, you know, this animal really loves me, first of all, unconditionally, and really I can communicate. I can have an understanding, and I think that's so exciting because we have to learn this as a species. If we're going to survive, say nothing of our world, we're going to have to recognize that, as we were speaking before, sentience, intelligence is possessed by all creatures. I mean, we used to say, bird brain was pejorative, and we find out now that birds are extremely intelligent. We have a family of crows that we feed every morning just before we go to bed. That's because we kind of live on the other side of the day. And they've been coming now ever since we moved here because they know they can rely on us for their breakfast. They come flying in, a whole family of them. And our neighbors remark that, if we're a little late and they happen to be going to work, they'll look over at our house and they'll see the crows waiting patiently on the roof until we come out. Now, the crow, of course, is the crow, the raven, whatever you want to call it, there again, they have a high intelligence when they've tested them with puzzles like how to get food out of a jar and how they'll go over and pick up a stick and pull it out. What we would think of as, surely that's not a baby and equal to a human baby. That's beyond. It might be a small child that would have that. But the reasoning processes that animals possessed, and certainly our dear friend the dog, is just superior to that in all tests. But the other animals, they're not sluggards, they're not dullards either. We have to respect that all animals have this intelligence, so much more than we ever thought when they were just dumb animals over whom we have dominion. We are the ultimate species on this planet. We have dominion over all. Well, how many of us deserve to have dominion over anything? I mean, we must learn to cooperate and recognize the oneness in all things.
So do you think that, excuse me, intelligence is just inherent in being a living being? Or do you think it was part of evolution? Because it seems like, for example, dogs have more intelligence than cows, or... when you start thinking, a fish, and so do you think it's intelligence? Do you think it has to do more with the kinds of interactions that they're having? And not just dogs. You were talking about these crows.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think attributes to these varying levels of intelligence?
I think it's their birthright. You mentioned fish. I mean, come on. How smart can a fish be? Well, again, tests indicate that it may be no coincidence. We call them schools of fish because they are learning. They are learning patterns. They are learning ways of survival. It's been astonishing. I mean, you think fish. I mean, pretty soon, and we're going to see earthworms. We're going to see everything has, for lack of a better word, their native intelligence, the intelligence with which they were born. And of course it varies. Of course, there are gradations, but there is intelligence, I remember John Krush, the conservationist, said, we owe kindness even to an insect. And I think about that every time a mosquito's landing on me, and I, without hesitation, swat it. That good grief, even that thing trying to suck my blood has some kind of intelligence, has some kind of being. And then, of course, being, I suppose, comes with being a writer, a poet, or whatever. I began to project, as some of us do, just what is their worldview? How do they apprehend us? How do they apprehend the other creatures around them? And we know that in dealing with, as we have, as I said, I'm a country boy, so all my life I've been dealing with fox and groundhogs and gophers and pigeons, and as well as the domesticated animals. And you mentioned cows. I mean, cows have a very soft spot in my heart. I remember as just a boy that a cow was having a breech birth. Just the legs were out. here I am, 13 years old. I'm alone home, which would be rare, but I was alone home. And this cow, I heard it mooing, this painful moo, way out in the pasture, and I heard it coming closer and closer. Finally, it came to the farm stockyard, and it just looked at me. It looked at me eye to eye and said, "Kid, you got to help me. You got to help me." And so I did the only thing I could think of. I wrapped some twine around those legs and pulled the calf out. And the cow, it was, you could just see the gratitude and the interspecies love and communication that passed between us.
So are you from a ranching family?
Farm family.
Farm
Son
family?
of the soil, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to share this story with you because you'll get it. The people listening on air might go, huh? My ex-husband, his family were, well, I used to call them cow people. I was being politically correct. They were cow people, not cowboys, not cowgirls, cow people. And so we were at their ranch, his parents' ranch, one year for a branding that they did every Memorial Day, and all like the neighbor cow people came and they had a barbecue, and I had never been to a branding before. And so they're like doing their thing. And being a healer, I'm like sending healing energies to the little baby cows, like heal, heal. And, but one of the things for the people that are listening, so what they would do is they would separate the baby cows from the adult cows and put them in this little corral. And I thought that was kind of traumatizing. And then I suggested that they give the parents some magazines while they're in the waiting room, and they didn't get it. And I'm like, well, what about a big screen TV? And they didn't get that either. And they thought I was just really weird and a city girl, and I should really just go home. So I hung out with the old ladies by the campfire because I couldn't handle the branding and the other part that went with that.
No, we punched a number in the cattle's ear, but we didn't do the branding. That
well, it wasn't the branding part. It was the little whoosh, whoosh. That part that I'm not even going to mention.
Right,
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That was gross. That was just gross. Anyway. But I will never forget that because they just looked at me like I was weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was fun.
Well, I suppose, we're here talking about four-legged miracles, but we're talking about miracles in the entire animal kingdom. And I think that's good. I think that shows, the universality, if I may, that we tried to put into this book, so that there would be different situations that people would relate to and see that, that the unexplainable mysteries of how a dog can be lost, perhaps when you're camping. He sees a rabbit, chases it, and for some reason he gets lost, which would be unusual, but it happens. And you have to go home. You search and search and search first, and you can't find your dog, but it's a situation you have to go home. And you drive those 75 or 100 miles back home, and 3 or 4 weeks later, there's your dog. Now you might say, okay, he could smell, he knew some of the way, he remembered the way, but then there's the mystery when a family moves. Tragically, the dog is left behind accidentally, and they move to another state. They move 6 states over, and it may take 3 or 4 or 6 months, but how does that dog find its way to a place, a home that it has never been? It couldn't hear if you're living in New Jersey. The dog didn't understand, well, we're going to move to West Virginia. What does West Virginia mean to a dog? But somehow the dog finds the family. Those are really just defy explanation. We have no explanation, and we're a species that has to try to explain everything. But we have no explanation for how that dog could possibly find its way to its family in a place, a state, a home it's never been. And those are the kind of stories, especially, that we have in the book that just just thrill us when we discover them.
They're really hard to believe, especially the kind where the person has moved. And it makes, I mean, what it elicits in me is, we were talking a little bit earlier about that bond and that psychic connection. Are they kind of like, and I'm just going to throw this one out there, using like little internal dowsing rods and using those to, find their way back to their family?
I think when the dog is lost, in a reasonable area, I think it is some type of magnetic attunement, such as when the birds fly south for the winter, that type of thing. There's also that incredible sense of smell, hundreds and hundreds time with the human. I think so often, for our little haunts, always smelling, that little nose is always going. And I say to Sherry, I wonder what his worldview is really like, because he maybe can't see as well as we can, and maybe hearing, very, very good, but maybe we even hear a little better, but smelling, we can't even imagine what a world of smells that they experience would be like. We can't even imagine what that would be like. So it can be a combination of the gifts, if I may, that a dog has. But in those situations where the dog has never been, I think almost the ultimate, besides Bobby the collie that walked all the way back and found its family, took 6-7 months and 3,000 miles, but it did it. But Joker, the story we have, and this is documented. It sounds like something we made up on a wild night of, let's come up with the weirdest, wildest story we can. This is fully documented. In World War II, Joker got left by his human friend, and the human friend was an officer. He shipped off from the West Coast and went to a classified island in the Pacific. A classified island. I mean, even his parents, his wife, no one knew where he was, because in World War II, there wasn't the advantage of having Skype, to communicate with your family, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing that our servicemen and women have today. I can remember as a child in World War II, we had no idea where our uncle was. We had no idea, and may not hear for 6 months. So this owner of the dog, master, friend, whatever you want to call him, takes off for an island in the Pacific. Joker somehow finds his way to the shipyard from which his human friend disembarked, manages to get on a ship, and a lieutenant on the ship says, "Oh, don't throw him overboard, I'll look after him," and literally adopted him, not knowing. All he knew was there's suddenly a dog on ship. So he looked after him. They stopped at one island. Joker just looked out, sniffed the air, looked back. They stopped on another island, did the same. Stopped at a third island, became excited, managed to get off the ship and run directly to his master on this island in the Pacific, unclassified. Even the man's family didn't know where he was, but his dog from California found him on this island in the Pacific. The lieutenant who had been adopting him was actually kind of hurt when Joker ran off the boat. But he didn't argue. He could see what relationship really mattered to that dog. Now, there is no way that we can explain this. And it was documented by several journalists at the time, because it sounds like something Walt Disney Productions would put into a movie. And then you would enjoy it, and you would smile. There might be a tear running down your eye, but inside you'd think, this could never happen. It's just a story. It's like Pinocchio coming to life when the blue fairy comes in. But this is true, and it's documented, and those are the kind of stories that we put into the book.
So where'd you get these stories from? I mean, did you do a lot of research? Did you ask people to submit stories? Where did you find them?
Well, we find them in a number of sources. When email and the internet came out, at first I thought it was the Antichrist, but now I see it can be marvelous. It can be used in many ways. And one of the ways that it's marvelous is that people send us information all the time. We sometimes, we average about 300 letters a day, people asking everything from helping them interpret a dream to there's a ghost in their attic to a wonderful animal story. So that's a marvelous way of collecting information for us. And then we do contact people, we do interview people, and we have had for many years now the Steiger questionnaire that we send out, and people will indicate, it's quite a lengthy questionnaire, but every once in a while we'll see, oh, here's a great story, and then we contact that person and ask he or she to elaborate on it.
Sounds good. So email's not the Antichrist anymore, huh?
Not anymore. But I still keep an eye on
it. Let's see. So in the book, what was your favorite story?
Favorite story? There are so many. I think Joker, I just told, is surely one of mine. I think one that both Sherry and I really, it's one of those, again, that would make a great little episode on a television series, is where the home was burglarized, and the dog, when they came home, found that only the home had been burglarized, but their wonderful pet dog was missing. So did the burglars take the dog? Did the dog run after them? The gates were open, and did it just stray off? Was it confused? And they continued to look for their dog for months. They decided they would go to a dog shelter and see if they could replace the dog. They just couldn't find it. Something must have happened. They arrived within minutes. And this is, again, one of those things that it isn't documented. They arrived within minutes when their dog, who had been kept in the pounds, who were kept in the shelter, they could keep them only so long, God bless those people, but they can still afford to feed and keep it so long. The dog, their dog, was just going to be euthanized when the lady of the family walked in and said, "Oh my God, that's our dog." Within minutes, the dog would have been gone. We have a similar story where a man leaves his dog with his daughter, and somehow it manages to get away. And it's a similar situation. He's driving and driving. Where could it be? Oh, gosh, the daughter. And she says, "I don't know. I guess maybe someone opened the door and it got out, and he's looking, but he's been away from his work for a while, so he has to go back to the office." But then he keeps thinking about his dog missing his Beva, his dog that he loves so much, and then he just takes off driving. And he finds himself almost, not even realizing till he's there, pulling up at a dog shelter. And it was a similar situation. He felt that the dog telepathically was drawing him to the shelter because in this particular city, they had to, because of financial considerations, they could only keep a dog 1 or 2 days. And then if it wasn't claimed, they would euthanize it. Once again, he comes in just at the photo finish when the dog would have been euthanized just within minutes. and reclaims his dog. Now, these seem to us to be clear instances where the dog is broadcasting, help, help me.
Save me.
Yes. And the friend of the dog, master, if you will, mistress, if you will, is able to find just in within minutes, and it would have been too late.
Wow. That would just freak me out. Losing my dog, that would freak me out enough.
Yeah.
Then going to a shelter and finding the dog, and they're with the needle in hand.
Yeah. But even worse would be needle in the dog, and you're just too late. I mean, that would be hard to live with. That would really be hard to live with.
Yes. Do you have any thoughts? They show. All right. One of the jokes at our house is, if Miss Bitsy doesn't get, her little treat in the morning or whatever, and we joke around. It's like, yeah, we know you got the ASPCA on speed dial on the phone, because we just abuse you so much. But you watch these commercials for the ASPCA or these other rescue organizations, and I don't understand how people can do that to animals. I mean, I guess they do it to people, but it just baffles me, that whole mentality.
Yeah. Where we lived in Arizona, there was a family. They had a dog, all right. And this is Arizona. If you've been to Arizona, you know how hot, 120 degrees in the summer. That's when we left. It was 120 degrees for 22 days. And we decided back to the Midwest. At any rate, the neighbors I don't think they might as well have had a stuffed animal sitting in the cage in the little house outdoors. Because that dog was never played with, fed, thank goodness, but never played with, and they had children. It was just there. I guess, well, we should have a dog for the children, don't you think so? Yeah, I guess we better. And that's all they did. But I said they might as well have had a stuffed animal because it just sat in this little house in that sweltering heat. I don't know how it survived, but it was there a couple of summers anyway. Why have a dog if you're going to mistreat it, or if you're going to, maybe even worse, neglect it? Mm-hmm. And dogs have to interact. That's their whole function. Love me, squeeze me. I love you. I'll watch over you. I'll never bite you. And that's another thing. People who, even if they think they're doing it to teach the dog, have a little switch, that they can spank its little hiney if it's bad. And the dog looks like, hey, man, do you realize I could bite you at any time? I could rip your leg open, but I wouldn't bite you. How can you beat me?
Well, that's because they don't have ASPCA on the speed dial.
I think it's because they don't have LOVE in their hearts.
Yeah, I hear that. Speaking about that, I want to make kind of a public service announcement. And since we're talking about our babies, I think this would be a great opportunity. Somebody had posted on Facebook issues about Beneful dog food. It's made by Purina. And I went online and looked it up, and there were, the site I was looking at, there were over 300 alleged, my husband said you have to say alleged complaints about that food, which we fed Miss Bitsy with the tinfoil hat. And so we've taken her off, and we have noticed just in the 3 days she hasn't been on it at all. She hasn't been biting her foot. She had this kind of cough thing going on. The cough is less than 50% of what it was. And so if people are feeding their dog that Beneful stuff, it looks pretty good in the container, but I don't know. You might want to do a little homework. I'll just say that. Do a little homework.
Yeah.
Because you might be thinking you're taking good care of your baby, but, maybe you're being misled.
Well, that's a good public service announcement, Dr. Rita. Our kids, of course, they're great animal lovers too. They're always get on us because we don't have a wide variety of packaged dog food or canned dog food. We pretty much, now we do have dry food for Hans, for him to supplement, but, we figure they've been eating what we're eating for 140,000 years in the world, too, probably. But as I say, we do supplement with dry food, but basically, Hans eats what we eat, and he seems to prosper. So I know our kids get at us all the time, oh, you should have this food and that food, and maybe they're even giving it the, what'd you call it, Bena something?
Beneful.
Beneful. Oh, like bountiful, Beneful? Yeah. Like that. Okay. But I think that's the choice. You do have to have a supplement, of course, and, little vitamins once in a while. And we take good care health-wise, but we've tried.
Hi, Sherry in the background.
Oh, you heard. Okay. Sherry's in the background monitoring the conversation. Yes. No, she's busy working on the next project here. So, we have tried it, she said, and we didn't like the results.
Well, see, Miss Bitsy won't eat dry food.
She won't eat dry food, no.
She doesn't like hard things, and so you give her like a regular milk bone, and it's a milk bone because it says milk bone on it, right. And she will literally walk around the house with it for days until she loses it, and then you have to give her a new one, and she'll walk around the house with it. And every so often, maybe once a week, she'll eat like half, maybe, and then walk around with it. And then lose it. So, you clean behind the cushions in the sofa and you find like an entire box of milk bones back there. But yeah.
Hoarding it for a rainy day, maybe.
She does that too, but we won't go into her bad behaviors.
That's not bad behavior. That's probably very prudent.
No, she's very possessive about her things, which is hysterical because if she puts the bone down and the cat happens to kind of walk by, whoosh, you've never seen a dog move so fast.
That's interesting, that little possessiveness. Sometimes I think it's a game. When he was a little pup, Hansi had his squeak toy that he loved to make squeak and carry around, and he was very possessive. Then for years, it's like, well, that's when I was a puppy. I'm a grown-up now. And he never paid any attention. Now, just recently, just within the last couple of months, Sherry's been giving him one of these chew sticks. And it's so funny because he will take it. And then if we even walk near it, he goes into this big production like, don't take my chew stick. And sometimes Sherry will get exasperated and says, hey, I gave it to you. Remember me? But I sometimes think that's part of a little game they're playing. Maybe that's a little retroactive emotion on their part. Because if you notice, the dog, when it eats, unless you curtail it in some way, he'll always take part of the food and bring it some distance from the bowl and eat it. I say, unless you train it not to, unless you train the dog not to. And that, of course, is genetic memory when they had to fight with the rest of the puppy tribe to get their share of food and then take it off where they could eat it in peace. And they still will do that. It's interesting, just like they walk around 3 times before they sit down. Genetic memory still has them tramping the tall grasses. All those things. It's interesting to see genetically how evolution leaves its mark on all of us creatures.
I never thought that was a genetic memory of them taking the food and dropping it somewhere else, but I wish she would stop.
Yeah.
We have white carpets. I wish she would stop.
Well, you just have to, say, watch for it and say no, when she starts to do it, because that's just ingrained in their genes, Quickly grab my food, I'll take it over where none of those nasty little brothers and sisters of mine can take it from me. They will always do that. They will always do that.
The cat might want to touch it.
The cat might. Oh, definitely the cat. No way the cat's going to get it.
Actually, usually the cat walks over to her bowl and she's like, have some lunch, and then she waits and, waits for them to walk away from their bowl and she's like, It's quite humorous around here with the animals.
Oh, well, it's humorous.
We get a lot of laughs.
Well, because we love them. That's a sign that you really love your animals if you can laugh with them. I mean, we have a good laugh with Hans several times today. It's people who don't laugh with their animals that really aren't paying attention to them. They require that too. They like a laugh. They like a romp. They like a chasing. I mean, every once in a while, and it gets a little testing sometimes because just writing and writing, don't want to be interrupted, and that's when Hans decides that he wants to have us chase him. Just a running around the house, I'm going to get that little dog, I'm going to get that little dog. And dogs laugh, dogs smile. We always believe that in research. Now, if you hear the dog is panting, of course, right? No. But if you tickle them, you'll hear really fast. And I've always said since I was a kid, they're laughing. Now, finally, there are scientists who agree with me that little it is laughing when you tickle it or when it's happy. We just got to stay with these scientists. We have to help them along.
I'm sorry. I'm just chuckling on the inside because Miss Bitsy does that all the time, and I'm not going to tell you what we do to her to get her doing that.
That I can guess.
Well, no. She gets the hand. It's like, the hand's going to get you.
Oh.
And then my husband will do that. See, it's like, here, everybody, this is what we do at our house. And then... But she'll be sitting on my lap, and so she's all focused on the hand, going to get her. And then I blow on the top of her head, which makes her stop. And then she looks up at me, and then I look at her like, "What? I didn't do that." And then there's the hand again, and so it's this battle for attention.
No.
It's quite funny. She laughs a lot.
I love to hear you say that because you have to play. You have to play as you would with a child, as you would with a friend, because they are your friend. They don't want to just sit on the floor. They don't want to just be fed. They don't want to just be taken out to do their business. They want to interact on every level because they observe that. They want all of it. They want the complete understanding that they are one with you.
And on that note, I think we need to start wrapping up. So your book, Four-Legged Miracles, I know it just came out. So where is it available?
It's available everywhere. Your favorite bookstore or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite online bookstore. It is everywhere.
Everywhere. And you had another book either come out or it was a re-release, rework of a book like in October or November. What was that? Because I'd like to give that one a plug also.
Oh, yes. That was the second edition of Real Ghosts, Restless Spirits, and Haunted Places.
Cool. And what are you guys working on now? What's the new project?
Well,
is it a secret?
Keeping that secret. But if I may plug another book,
sure.
Our second edition of Conspiracies and Secret Societies is out and doing exceedingly well. And it's a second edition. It's got new stuff in it. But, boy, this is a conspiracy age. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we're totally objective. This is an encyclopedia. In fact, some people say, if they had a pet conspiracy, but it's just the facts, ma'am. It is just the facts, and that's why people are loving it, and I think that's why it's been selling so well, both first and second editions, because we just explain historically what the secret society or the conspiracy is all about, what they claim, but we don't make any judgments. It's just written as a journalistic history book with lots of exciting things, but still, we don't take sides. We just present.
Well, I know the music's going to be coming up here in just a second. So, Brad, I am going to let you go. A pleasure, again, having you on the show. We got to talk about one of my favorite things, my babies.
Yes. Well, as always, Dr. Rita, I have enjoyed myself exchanging concepts, ideas, and thoughts with you and with your many listeners. And I thank you for the opportunity to discuss our new book, Four-Legged Miracles.
Okay, and when that new one comes out, we'll have to send me an email and we'll have you back on.
Oh, you will definitely get a copy when the new one comes out. It'll probably be in the fall.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Brad Steiger, his new book, Four-Legged Miracles. His webpage is bradandsherry.com, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.